Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan. If you didn't mean to be here, it's not my fault. You've stumbled into the vast and ominous comic vault. In brightest day, in blackest night, no comic shall escape my sight. Finally, we're back to some Amalgam. It's Speed Demon. Of course, Speed Demon #1. These are all one-shots. This one is written and drawn by a couple of duos. This is Howard Mackey and James Felder telling the story with art by Salvador Larroca and Amalgam. And this ended up being a concept that made a lot more sense to me once I read it. I wasn't especially keen on looking at this one. It seemed like a kind of a generic idea. Okay, we'll just take Ghost Rider and Flash and call it Speed Demon, because that's a thing, because that's a phrase people have heard before. That's in the vernacular. Speed Demon, that sounds cute, you know, he runs fast and he's a demon. But you know, we got a thing that runs fast with Flash, and we got a demon with Ghost Rider, so we'll just put those things together. But they're both legacy heroes, and that's kind of what this is all about. So we kind of take Flash and replace the Speed Force with the dark magic and the mysticism, and I think that works quite well. We've got two different Ghost Riders that are mixed with a couple of Flashes, and then you have Jay Garrick being the original of the Speed Demons, and our main Speed Demon in this, we have an origin for a new one. We also have a flashback origin for Barry Allen. He's Blaze Allen in this. We're mixing Johnny Blaze with Barry Allen, and as I said, he's the main Speed Demon. And then we also have an in-story origin for Wally West, who is just called Wally West, but he is also the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And he's called Kid Demon, at least in all the peripheral stuff. I don't think that's actually in this comic, but that's what he's officially known as in all of the reference material on Amalgam. So the idea here is that we have this evil demon called Night Spectre, and he created Speed Demon when Blaze Allen, who had been dabbling in the dark arts, decided that he didn't want to take up Night Spectre on his offer. And it's kind of almost like an inversion of the traditional Ghost Rider origin story, where instead of making a deal with the devil, he says no to the devil, and then he has to make a deal with a more benign demon in order to try to fix his mistakes and go down a redemptive path. So the idea is he is a victim, but this is also his fault, so to some degree. So the problem with it, of course, is we don't really know why he got into the dark arts. He has kind of a natural gift for it, which is why Night Spectre came to him and offered him a job, basically. He says no to it, and so Night Spectre kills his wife as they're getting married. Real sadistic, this guy. He says, okay, fine, I'll let you have a taste of happiness, and then just as you're getting married, basically just as the pastor says, kiss the bride, she's going to age rapidly and shrivel up and die, and that's what happens, and so he becomes Speed Demon in order to try to save her soul. And the idea is Night Spectre is a soul collector, and that's where he gets his power from, as far as I understand it. And he is primarily after souls of power, whatever that means. I guess it's just kind of a luck of the draw. Some people have souls of power, and he goes after them. And one of those souls of power is Green Goblin, for whatever reason, and Green Goblin is one of these Amalgam characters who is who has the same mantle as a character from one of these companies, but is still a blend of two characters, and he is Harvey Dent and Norman Osborn. He's called Harvey Osborn, except for the one panel in which he's not. It's really strange that this is the one where I've seen, unless there's something I'm not understanding, where he's also somehow Norman and Harvey at the same time. But his name, and again, in all of the research I was able to do, I found everything calls him Harvey Osborn, but in one place it's Norman, and I think it's amusing that such a glaring mistake happens in this particular issue, given that there are 4 sets of eyes on it in the writing and the art, and you'd think at the very least it wouldn't get past, like, where's the quality control? You think at the very least it wouldn't get past editorial. But anyway, I thought that was kind of amusing. So he's allegedly Harvey Osborn, and he's just kind of your generic, greedy, power-mad psychopath, and putting those two together is potentially fascinating. We're not doing anything with it here, really, and he's basically just caught in the middle of this battle between Night Spectre. I keep wanting to call him Dark Spectre. That's Power Rangers. But he keeps getting caught in the middle in this battle between these two guys, and even though he's not, he is a bad guy, and he also, fights Speed Demon a little bit in this. Speed Demon is trying to keep Night Spectre from stealing anybody's souls, and toward the end, Night Spectre ends up taking over Green Goblin's body so that he can get some more panel time, I think, and we get our big fight at the end between them and then the second Speed Demon, when Wally West makes a deal with Merlin, who's a cross between just the two Merlins from DC and Marvel, and he becomes another Speed Demon, and they fight Night Spectre and end up winning kind of easily, really. And the big, I guess I'll get back to Green Goblin again here in a second, but the big question we're left with at the end is what is the demon that bonded himself to Wally West, because, and I'll give this a lot of credit for that. I was reading the last few pages and going, wait a minute, what did I miss? Like, what is this demon? And I like that we're kind of left with that mystery, but at the same time, since I know we're not going to get more of this unless it comes up in one of the other books, that's also somewhat of a letdown, because I was interested enough that I would have liked to have known what that demon was. And I think the implication might be, I don't know, that somehow or other Night Spectre might have control of him, because he has kind of a floating head looming, or not a floating head, but well, no, it is kind of a floating head, above a graveyard at the end, and he's, kind of like Doomsvents and Spawn here, and he's like, ha 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 ha. So I don't think he's bonded to Night Spectre, that that's the demon, because otherwise he would have been fighting himself, basically. He would have just had control of Green Goblin and Wally West. So I don't think that's what's going on, but it seems like he has maybe some kind of a trump card, and he's actually 5 steps ahead. So I'll give it that I was interested enough in what I was looking at that I would have loved to have found out, who that was by the end. But anyway, I really like this idea of mixing Harvey Dent and Norman Osborn together, because they both have the multiple personality thing going on. They're both a good man who is torn down by this other side of his personality that he can't control. And I think the idea of Two-Face wearing a mask is really interesting. And again, this is not in the book, but where my mind immediately went when I considered that notion was, okay, you've got these two conflicting sides of your personality that are constantly fighting each other. They're waging war internally, and there's this external a symbol of that you can't get around and that everyone can see, and that just fuels that fire and makes it worse, where like, as much as you might want to allow your good side to dominate your bad side, everyone sees that bad side, and you can't hide it. So you put on a mask, and you try to allow whichever side you'd like to dominate to take over, or maybe even have a third one. I mean, I feel like Green Goblin would be even a different thing from Harvey Dent or Two-Face, the Two-Face side, because neither of those, together, they're psychopathic just in the sense that you know, they're schizophrenic, and there are these two personalities, and that's you know not how the human brain usually works. So just inherently there's something you know, damaged there in the psychology. But Green Goblin is just a psychopath. He's just he's just maniacal and interested in nothing but power, and craves that. And so it's kind of interesting that you would like maybe trade. I mean, I'm reading into a bunch of stuff that's not here. I'm not saying this is in the book, but just that idea is really cool. That maybe you would prefer one-sided chaos, just like one personality that would take over and you could have whatever you wanted to good and evil constantly fighting each other. That maybe it's easier for just bad to take over than just good to take over. I should mention some other characters in this, because these issues always like to cram as many other little amalgams as humanly possible, and they get really obscure, of course, and this is very much a time capsule for, this is 20 years ago, for this period of time in both DC and Marvel Comics, where there are characters that we blend with other characters that we would never have used, or that we would never use now and probably wouldn't have used before that, because some of these are characters that just never come up. Some of them were new characters that didn't catch on. So you have Blob, who is called the Blob, but he looks different, and he's mixed with a DC character named Chunk, who I had never heard of before, and I don't know if he's ever come back again. So that's one of those. And we introduce the Green Lantern mythology into this at the very, very beginning, and Speed Demon comes in and tries to save Hal Jordan, who is Madman Hal Jordan. He's Hal Jordan mixed with Madman. Nothing's really done with that. He's just called Madman because the Guardian, who is Uatu the Watcher, as an evil guardian, which I think is a really cool idea. And we don't need to do anything with it. It's just he's Uatu, and he's a guardian / watcher, and he's trying to get rid of all of the Green Lanterns. And they've kind of framed Hal Jordan. Everybody thinks that he's insane, and that everything that's happened with the Green Lantern Corps falling apart is his fault, or whatever it's called now. I don't know if they are Green Lanterns. I know there's Iron Lantern, which we'll review when we get to the 97 stuff, and hopefully all of this will be explained in that. I imagine the mythology is of course, this mythology is consistent with this. But anyway, I really like how this opens, and that Speed Demon kind of comes into this other like legacy mythology, and that right away we kind of established this as being about the bigger cosmic stuff. Of course, it's more the magic side than the space side, but that it's you know, the cosmic stuff, and it's about legacy heroes. And also Speedy shows up. This is a thing we do a lot in 90s comics. I mean, we do this a lot in Amalgam, but just in a lot of really action-driven Big Two comics in the 90s, where a character will just show up out of nowhere and we won't even explain, were they in the scene that whole time? This is the problem with a lot of comics from this era, is you kind of lose track of setting real fast. I always complain about the blank backgrounds, where we don't really know where we are. There's a character in this named Arrowcaster, who is Speedy and a Marvel character named Nightcaster. Speedy, of course, Green Arrow's sidekick, and Nightcaster is not a character I was familiar with, and he is kind of Night Spectre's sidekick, or you know, henchman or something, and I guess he shoots like dark magic arrows, and he wasn't there, and then he just pops up out of nowhere. I mean, I know these are magic creatures, so maybe he just materializes, but it really feels like, oh, we got to get another character in a panel in here so that we can keep blending as many things as we can, and he's there for one panel and doesn't do anything. But anyway, so that's about all I wanted to say about it. Once again, really truncated story, so it's it is, you know, loosely about some stuff. I mean, it's about a guy who kind of makes his own bed, and he has to sleep in it, and he has a in the person that he's kind of passing the mantle to, or who at least for the time being has the same mantle along with him, is a guy who is you know, really naive and wet behind the ears, and has not made those kinds of mistakes yet, so he's still really idealistic, and he doesn't have a lot of experience in life yet, and kind of expects everything to turn out well. And we find out that, you know, he might have made a deal with the devil when he was just trying to help out his uncle. And so I kind of like the idea that he might have made the mistake, you know, a similar mistake to what Blaze Allen made, but for the right reasons. You know, he had his heart in the right place, but he goes the same way, and maybe, you know, that's a sacrifice that he will decide was worth it or not. But anyway, so I think I've said this with a lot of these. There's a lot of story potential here, and it's unfortunate that it's only one issue. And I've said this before too, but I feel like if we did these now, a lot of these would be 3 or 4 issue miniseries at least, and maybe we could explore those ideas some. But this so far is definitely one of the better of these, and I would certainly recommend it to folks that like the magic side, and especially the occult side of DC and Marvel Comics, and like the Legacy Hero stuff, because I think that's all blended together really well. Thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan, and I will see you again hopefully very soon with another Comic Vault with some more Amalgam.